After a long wait, the believers finally got their promised identity. First teased on the 26th of July on the Project Moon official livestream, Wild Hunt Heathcliff was released today, on the 22nd of August. With the long wait came an incredible amount of hype when he was teased to release this week, and now that he's part of the game, we can look at how powerful this long-awaited Heathcliff is. In this video, I don't want to just sit here and read out his abilities. Instead, I want to focus on his effectiveness in combat, as I think there's a lot to talk about. Without further ado, let's get started. First, I want to talk about Wild Hunt Heathcliff's unique counter and how it plays into the two ways of playing the character. Old Dullahan is a clashable counter, meaning that it behaves pretty much like a normal skill. If we compare it to Heathcliff's first skill, it seems to simply be a stronger version of that skill. The main difference lies in the effects inflicted with Old Dullahan. On combat start with Old Dullahan active, if Heathcliff doesn't have Dullahan, he gets one stack next turn. Dullahan is an ability that allows Heathcliff to mount a horse at the start of the turn, recovering him from stagger and increasing his offensive capabilities. You get up to 3 stacks of Dullahan, and in a similar fashion to Don Office Sinclair, Heathcliff loses SP at the start of each turn while in this powered up state. While Dullahan is active, Heathcliff's second skill gains +1 attack weight, and his third skill is entirely changed to Lament, Mourn and Despair, which is a powerful skill with negative coins. On top of this, while Dullahan is active and Heathcliff has 15 SP or more, his unique counter is switched for Lament, Mourn and Despair, meaning that you effectively always have access to that skill whenever you need it. Lament, Mourn and Despair is the skill that the entire low SP way of playing Wild Hunt is built around, so let's take a look at the skill itself. On use, Heathcliff loses 15 SP. The skill also gets some base power for sinking on target. The skill then increases its damage depending on how far you are from 45 SP. It then also deals more damage per coffin and Dullahan on Heathcliff. The first coin of the skill inflicts 5 sinking with 2 count, effectively making it so that Lament, Mourn and Despair doesn't use up sinking count. It also increases the stagger threshold of the target, making it easier for the second coin to deal double damage. The second coin then deals additional damage based on sinking on the target. All these damage multipliers and effects build upon the already incredible 31 base power of the skill, making it a powerful damage dealing tool. This alone can justify giving Heathcliff additional actions, but there's another ability I didn't mention. After the attack, if Heathcliff is at less than 0 SP, he recovers 10 SP plus 2 additional SP for every SP under 0, and then at the end of the turn he loses Dullahan. This makes it possible to use a counter to mount Dullahan, then spam Lament, Mourn and Despair to fall below 0 SP while dealing massive damage, then bounce back to positive SP and dismount Dullahan to be able to fight normally right after. However, there's one simple problem. This sequence requires way too many actions. This means that all the things that I said can be done best when you're running Wild Hunt Heathcliff to solo a stage. Outside of a solo run, spamming Lament, Mourn and Despair is impossible, and thus you're incentivized to let Dullahan lower your SP, while all of your abilities become useless. Then you use Lament, Mourn and Despair when you're low on sanity to deal high damage and bounce back, or you can use Lament, Mourn and Despair early, losing SP without getting it back, and probably just flipping heads for no damage. This is what I like to call a negative playstyle for Wild Hunt Heathcliff. By giving him more actions, you allow him to run rampant with huge amount of gloom damage, finishing off encounters super early. He is a beast when used alone against well-picked targets, but not every encounter is soloable, and not everyone is willing to play the game like that. Which is why there's another way of playing Wild Hunt Heathcliff, the positive playstyle. By entirely ignoring Old Dullahan and using Requiem instead, Wild Hunt Heathcliff becomes more ingrained into sinking teams, and easier to use in a full roster. Requiem heals 10 SP on Clash Win, propelling Heathcliff into high SP earlier than other identities. This makes him a potent clasher early on into any encounter, and allows the other identities in his team to inflict more of their debuffs, namely sinking, which leads to synergy. This part is why we'll take a look at Wild Hunt Heathcliff's other skills, and check if he's fit for a sinking team when playing with his positive playstyle. His first skill is already a pretty weak start. With 2 coins and no sinking count infliction, Heathcliff effectively wastes 2 sinking count when using Beheading. With no normal defensive skill to use for the purpose of skipping this skill, you're stuck with losing at least 1 count and some SP to an ego skill or his counter, or losing 2 count and no SP to beheading. His second skill is a bit more interesting. At first glance it seems like a variation of Don Office Sinclair's second skill, but in reality most of his weight comes from Coffin, and not Dullahan, meaning that even in a full team playing a positive Heathcliff you still get multi-target damage on Memorial Procession. You might think that this skill also wastes sinking count, but that's not necessarily the case. Due to inflicting Impending Ruin that is then used to inflict 2 sinking count, effectively Memorial Procession only loses 1 count, and provides 5 potency and good damage in return, which I believe isn't bad for a sinking team. Lastly we have Requiem, the normal skill 3. By gaining a lot of coin power from sinking and dealing more damage with more coffin stacks, Requiem works really well to hit hard when used in a sinking team. But even if the damage is great, to me the most important part of Requiem is the fact that it inflicts 4 sinking count, with +2 count inflicted against enemies with Impending Ruin. Effectively, this skill behaves almost like a Threadspin 3 Corrosion Rhyme Shank in terms of infliction, and if used without the additional infliction, it's actually equal to a Threadspin 3 Awakening Rhyme Shank, and with how important that ego is to the sinking team, it's obvious that Requiem is also very valuable. With Wild Hunt Heathcliff's Sin Affinity spread featuring both Gloom and Envy, he sets up the real Rhyme Shank nicely, and can also help keep Rodion and High SP with Yasun Yata Tadrupam if she's spamming her ego. Overall, Wild Hunt Heathcliff has 2 faces, the ferocious beast that everyone expected him to be, and an unexpectedly viable sinking support. Should you extract him? Well, on account of him being extremely hot and fun to play, of course. But if you're not a fan of solo gameplay, Wild Hunt Heathcliff loses a lot of his charm. And that's my final verdict. Thank you so much for watching till the end of the video, and if you liked it, consider subscribing to the channel to join the Was Here Before 1K club. The sinking team video will be released this week, so I hope to see you soon. Goodbye!